Hi, all of you awesome scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diving Magazine podcast, where I break down the latest scuba diving news and things that have piqued my interest over the previous week. This week on the podcast, plans for the defunct National Diving and Activity Centre, or more commonly known as NDAC, inland diving facility, is to get a new lease of life at a new location near Neath in South Wales. Have taken a step forwards. A scuba diving van has been stolen from a dive centre in Sheffield, but it's been recovered, and a documentary filmmaker is asking for any footage of any wild orcas that any scuba divers may have. So yeah, a award-winning conservationist documentary maker is asking for help from the diving and underwater photography community in supplying video footage of killer whales. This comes from Ray Levy-Yamamori, who runs Econature Productions and is currently filming a follow-up to his 2021 documentary Bridging Troubled Waters. Based on the Israeli environmental educator and filmmaker's experiences in the Faroe Islands, that production followed him as he questioned how the infamous annual whale hunts could continue in the 21st century while seeking to find a bridge between the hunters and the anti-grind campaigners in the outside world. They're usually called grind stop. Levi Yamamori has now turned his attention to the international dolphinarium trade, hoping to help persuade people in those countries where watching captive performing marine mammals remains popular, mainly in Northern America, Europe, and Japan, to stay away from these shows. As in Bridging Troubled Waters, Levi Yamamori aims to take a non-confrontational approach to his efforts to win over the hearts and minds, but says he needs footage of killer whales in the wild to contrast with the video that he already has of captive animals in dolphinarium tanks. He's hoping that cold water diving videographers will get behind his project and donate their personal underwater or surface footage. In exchange, they can expect a film credit, and he hopes some satisfaction from helping to end the capture and exhibition of cetaceans. So if you do have any footage either on the surface or underwater of killer whales, orcas, whatever you prefer to call them, you can contact the filmmaker at econature.prod at gmail.com. I'll try and remember to put that email address down in the description underneath this video. Otherwise, I'll pop a link to the Divernet articles, and it's all in there if you want to contribute. Here in the UK, plans for the defunct National Diving and Activity Centre, or NDAC, inland diving facility is getting a new lease of life at a new location in South Wales. So a former open-cast coal mine site in the Amman Valley called East Pit is the chosen spot to revive the facility, according to a report in Wales Online. The water-filled former workings now form a lake between two villages that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce because they're Welsh, and the second one only has a single vowel in it, but they lie on the south side of the Black Mountain, which is part of the Brecon Beacons National Park. Plans to redevelop this area into a country park leisure facility complete with hotel, a lodge, and campsite accommodation with a lakeside dive and water activity centre had first been drawn up as far back as 2012. When NDAC was still operating at Day House near Tiddenham. That facility closed in 2022, and there wasn't a great deal of news. It just kind of closed. There were quite a few theories. I remember someone saying that the military had purchased it, and there are a few other theories going about. It was originally opened in 2003. And it was a great deep water site. You could go down as far as about 80 meters, making it suitable for technical and free divers needing that depth. And they also had other things in the water at shallower depths, from shipwrecks and kind of things to look at. It had since been taken over by a company called Deep that I've mentioned on the podcast before. They develop and build an underwater habitat and submersible research facility. So it was quite convenient for them. The new the proposed dive site for NDAC. The East Pit site owner is Avalon Glen, and they have faced environmental concerns and some local opposition to its plans, but the Welsh Government has now granted it permission to deregister more than 100 hectares of common land around the site to move ahead with the project. When common land is released for development, new common land has to be provided to replace it, but in March last year, NDAC Limited applied to Neathport Talbot Council for a 3-year extension to submit a reserved matters approval. The stage is still in planning applications that covers detailed plans for aspects such as site appearance, means of access, landscaping, layout and scale. However, it also said that the plans remained largely unchanged from before its involvement in 2012. So it looks like they are still well on the way to creating a new NDAC. It's not a million miles away from where it was originally. It's a bit further west, but it is nice to see a new version of NDAC and a new inland dive site. Further north in Sheffield, people were asked to be on the lookout for the Dive World Dive Centre van, which was stolen from outside of the dive centre on the night of the 6th of February. It's a Citroen relay, and it was very obviously it had their livery all over it. You can clearly tell it Dive World. It's got phone numbers and email addresses and websites and all that kind of stuff all over it, and it just kind of went missing. It has since been found. A quote from Dive World says, "The van has been found. A huge thank you to John Clark and Lynn Hanson for spotting it and letting us know where it is. We have been out to secure it and have informed our insurers and South Yorkshire Police. Big thanks to Dave at VMS Richard at Home Lane Motors and all the fabulous staff in Townshaw for trawling through CCTV and pinpointing the time it was taken. It was 2 guys dressed in black wearing balaclavas. They broke into it at 2:34 a.m. and drove off at 2:40 a.m. A black Audi left heading up Wood Road. The van headed off afterwards towards Riverlyn. A huge thank you to everyone who has shared this post and help us and showing how social media works positively." Yeah, it always amazes me how well social media can do everything from like the the Shia LaBeouf, He Will Not Divide Us. They managed to pinpoint a live stream of a flag in the middle of the United States by like flight paths. They could see aeroplanes flying in the background, and then at night they pinpointed it with the stars, and then to really narrow it down, there was a guy in the area who drove around and just kept pipping his horn, and then when it got louder and louder, eventually people messaged him and just said, "Yep, you're right next to it," and they found it. Well done, social media. And yeah, here is for something obviously very good. They say, fortunately, there was nothing left in the van, and what absolute idiots thought there would be. We don't tend to leave like BCDs and regulators and stuff in the van, but if they were after the equipment, they wouldn't have taken the van. Dive World actually said, considering their skills, why don't they get a job as a mechanic somewhere and enhance people's lives instead of trying to mess up their lives of hardworking, self-employed people? True. If you're that savvy with mechanics, then surely it would be easier just to get a job as a mechanic or start up a mechanic business. They say, looking on the brighter side, we're very grateful for everyone's help and look forward to sorting out the repairs and getting it back on the road. Not a huge amount of news in the dive equipment world as far as new dive equipment. There was something quite interesting that again came from social media, and it's that a Russian company called Blackbird seems to be basically photoshopping X-Deep dive equipment and branding it as their own. And from what I can tell, it seems to be stemming from the fact that X-Deep, as a Polish company, have said that they are not going to ship their product into Russia for obvious reasons in this day and age. And the Russian dive show have said a new Russian brand from the White Veil group of companies, Blackbird underwater equipment for recreational and technical diving, will be presented at the exhibition at stand C61. They're claiming they make modern and efficient regulators, vests, wings and side mounts, accessories and fittings for diving, all the most useful and necessary things for the most demanding of diver. And it's kind of, yeah, all right, whatever, until you look at the photos and the like branding that they've produced. And the first thing that comes up is the Blackbird Aileron 40/50, and it is just an X-Deep Hydros. But they've like photoshopped the X-Deep logo off of it, not very well, because around the pool dumps, the kidney dumps, you usually have the X-Deep logos. They've kind of just photoshopped and smudged it out, and then just copied and pasted their logo over the sides of the wings, so it's completely flat and straight, and very photoshopped. Another one is the X-Deep Stealth, but Blackbird are calling it the Horizont. And again, it is just a Stealth that's just been photoshopped to have a different logo. And someone very well noticed there's a picture of the back of a twin set diver, and it's got Blackbird photoshopped onto the wing, but when you actually look at the inflator, you can still see the X-Deep logo around where the inflator elbow attaches onto the wing. So not very impressive, and we don't know what's going to happen, because the Russian dive show is from February 8th to the 11th. Maybe we'll see some images of their copied attempts at X-Deep going forwards out on social media. But what? I suppose imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. That's kind of the best way that you can take this kind of news. X-Deep are already aware. I think X-Deep were the first to alert it on social media, but Struth, it's a very underhanded move, and another underhanded move from Russia. Otherwise, I found two new freediving fins on SEAC's websites, the W22 and the BM30. They just look like... I'd call the W22 like a digital freediving fin. It's pretty cool. Let me change it to English so that I can read the description. Pretty standard information coming from a freediving fin. It's made from CX FRC technology, light and reactive technopolymer, which offers similar to carbon fiber based composite, but eliminates the well-known problem of composite material fragility. Oh, that's quite impressive. So it's the main thing with like carbon fiber long fins is that they give a real nice like snap and efficiency in the water, but they're pretty fragile. So if you're using them for like spearfishing, or you're doing a lot of shore entries, if you kind of crack them at the wrong place on a rock, then you can very easily delaminate them. So a lot of like spearfishermen who are in and around rocks tend to use a plastic blade, just because you can smack it as much as you like, and well, to a certain degree, and you just won't break it the same as a carbon fiber. But with plastic fins, you don't get that same like dynamic feel to it. So this FRC seems to be as close to carbon fiber as possible, but it's still plastic. They say the compound employed is so elastic and has such a high shape memory that if we were to look at the blade after rolling it up on itself, it would go back to its initial form once released, without any permanent structural deformation that would compromise its performance. That's pretty impressive. I'd love to test that out. Otherwise it's a smart smart looking fin. The other one, the M30, the BM30. uses the same FRC technology. Oh, it stands for Fully Responsive Compound. Similar performance to carbon fiber and glass. Seems to have a more aggressive angle of attack. BM30 stands for the 30-degree angle that the blade comes out of the foot pocket to facilitate both surface finning and to accommodate the natural inclination of the ankles when diving. Okay, so a bit more aggressive angle of attack compared to the 22 degrees of the W22. I like it when names are nice and neat like that. Otherwise, I don't remember seeing anything overly interesting being released. And then on to some Ask Mark questions. The first one coming from Rancid's channel, 3206, says another great video. Just curious, the nice copper mast head, sorry, there's a typo there, type lamp that has appeared in your videos on your counter. Is there a story to it? Not really. I'd love for it to have an exciting story, but I just found it at a live vintage store and fell in love with it. To be honest, the reason why it's on my desk is it helps me pull focus, because I never trust like autofocus that much. I do on my backup camera, but on my primary, just manual focus. Sean taught me that, because the autofocus isn't great. Even on my relatively expensive camera, it breathes a bit where it readjusts its focus a bit too often when it doesn't need to. Whereas if I am just sitting there, I just use manual focus. Is just much more trustworthy. And if I like lean back and go out of focus, it's a bit more natural than it like constantly breathing, which kind of bugs me. So yeah, I just put it on the desk so that I can pull focus on that from behind the camera. Otherwise, it can be quite tricky. It's more because when I was growing up, my father always had this, it was like a coal mining brass lamp, and we used to use that during power cuts and things, and that always kind of like stuck in my mind. And when I was growing up, I was like, yeah, I'd like something similar, just in case, like, if the power sort of went out in my house, that I'd have something to like be able to walk around in the dark to see without like burning batteries. And yeah, I saw that and was like, yep, it had a nautical theme as well, so I was like, yeah, I'll take that. But yeah, there's no exciting story. I didn't find it underwater anywhere. I found it at a like an antiques shop. Robin Morland says, instead of a knife, may I suggest a fingernail or a small wood file? I tend to use that to remove the sharp edges of cable ties. It was one of those things that I never really thought too much of it. It was on the video on how to replace a BCD inflator, and you have to use zip ties to put to fit the new one. And whenever you snip the tail off of a zip tie, it always leaves that quite sharp corner. And I was always taught, because at the dive center, that's how all the technicians did it. You just get a single-edge razor blade, and you just kind of shave it down, and Bob's your uncle. It's nice and smooth. It's mainly for the ones on mouthpieces on second stages, because yeah, if you've got that sharp corner around your lips, you're definitely going to find it. So you had to make it nice and neat and comfortable. And just one of those things. Okay, that's how I was taught to do it. Never thought much of it. And yeah, it does make a lot more sense just to use a nail file or just a smooth wood file to get rid of that like nasty edge without having to have that blade so close to your diving equipment. So yeah, I'll be doing that from now on. It reminds me of when I started working at Simply Scuba. We used to do a service where we'd fit your prescription lenses into certain masks for you, instead of you like receiving the separate bits and then having to work out how to do it. We would just do it then and there when we shipped it out. And I saw someone doing it, one of the warehouse workers, and like horrified me, because they were using a knife to like, with, I think it was mainly the Tusa masks. With them, you have to pop out this like internal frame, and yeah, they were using a knife to do it. And I was like, oh, stop that. At worst, you need a flathead screwdriver. Tusa actually has a tool which is like a plastic flathead screwdriver, and it's made of the same plastic, so you're less likely to damage the plastic frame of it. And I spoke to the warehouse manager, and he was like, okay, yeah, we'll retrain. So like everyone, that's how the previous guy taught us to do it, so we just did it that way. No, if there's a safer way, it's better to improve yourself. At Travel Boss Nas says, I'm thinking of buying my first BC, fairly new advanced open water diver with 60 plus dives, but my question is, I've never been on a dive with a backplate and wing BCD, and I'm going on a big dive trip to the Philippines in April. Would it be a bad idea to get a backplate and wing BCD and use it for the first time on this trip, or are they pretty easy to get accustomed to? Yeah, there always has to be this caveat, because everyone's different. When I transitioned from like a jacket style BCD to a wing style, my very first own BCD that I bought was a wing style BCD. Previously, I'd only used like school BCDs, which were all jackets, and when I was working abroad, we were using jacket-style BCDs as well. But then when I got back and I wanted to invest in my own equipment, then yeah, I bought a wing. It was just a recreational wing. It was a Mares something. I forgot the name of it, but yeah, it was a back inflate. It wasn't a jacket-style BCD, and personally, I never noticed that much of a difference. The only difference that I noticed was that, yeah, when it's fully inflated, it didn't squeeze your rib cage, which was nice. Transitioning from that to a solid metal backplate and wing, again, very little difference. One thing that I would say is that some divers do find, or sometimes find it difficult to deflate and dump gas from the BCD from a wing. I don't really know why. It's just kind of a thing. They come back and they say, oh, I couldn't get on with this wing style BCD because I had runaway ascent and I couldn't vent gas. I wasn't there. I can't see what they were or weren't doing. I don't see why a wing style would be any different from a jacket style to vent gas, whatever it is. So I wouldn't advise against using it on a big dive trip to the Philippines. Usually on those kind of trips, your first dive anyway is a check dive, so it's somewhere really nice and safe. Very little, if any, current, and in like pretty shallow waters. So if something weird does happen, then yeah, you can just go straight up to the surface. It shouldn't be the end of the world. But when it comes to the end of the dive, I would just make sure that I can vent a little bit of gas before I ascend, and just take it nice and easy. But yeah, I'd be quite happy. I've taken new wings, like brand new wings, attached onto backplates, and gone out to dive holidays and tested them out. It shouldn't be that much of a culture shock for you, because they'll still act very similar to a jacket style BCD. You should be fine. Just take it a little bit easy, and just don't rush anything. Carl Fleming 2171 says, hi Mike, just a quick question. When you do the product drop, do you wing it up, or is it the missus on a step ladder? It's all me. I think it came from safe diving when I was trying to. It was basically during lockdown, and I started up my own channel to keep myself sane, and I was looking at different ways to do transitions. And I was just learning how to edit videos and looking at different transitions to make it a little bit more dynamic and interesting. And yeah, that kind of stuck. I can't remember where I saw it, but yeah, some kind of similar video where you get this swoosh as there's a transition, and then they catch it. They catch the item and then they talk about it. And And I just thought, yeah, I can do that. And it's literally just me throwing it up as high as possible without crashing into any of the lighting or stuff above my head, and then I catch it, and then you just have to edit it at the right point. I'd never get my missus. She's got a job as well, so she's not always around, and it's just me. I throw it up, look at the camera, and then try and catch it as best I can. And that's it for another week. A nice quick episode today. Nothing overly exciting kind of happened this week, other than the X-Deep. That was probably the thing that most piqued my interest. Just trying to find out where and what was going on. So yeah, next week it'll be quite interesting to see if there's anything interesting to come out of it. I'm not sure how like copyright laws and stuff kind of happen crossing those borders, but hey, we will find out. We're still heading into the Go Diving show here in the UK, so if you don't have tickets, then you can still buy them. We have introduced a new ticket, which is the late arrival. So you'll have admission from 3 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. You won't get to see or take part in like workshops or the talks on the main stage and whatnot, but you will still be able to talk to all of the big brands, talk to the retailers, have a look around, look at the travel locations and stuff, and just kind of see and touch and feel and buy equipment and stuff. But it's at a discounted rate, so if you don't want to stay for like the entire day, that's fine. That there is a cheaper alternative for you. Otherwise, yeah, head over to godivingshow.com, check out the different tickets for the Saturday and the Sunday, and all of the different exhibitors. Otherwise, yeah, thank you for listening, everybody, and of course, safe diving.